Manfish is a micro-budget feature film that was shot in 2021, and it's a comedy horror about a guy who goes to the beach to kill himself and then uncovers a humanoid sea creature and takes it home. So the idea for Manfish came from a list of log lines. So I would sometimes really push myself to write lots and lots of log lines for films, and lots of them would be really bad. And then occasionally one would come out that I would think, yeah, well, maybe there's something in that. And I can't remember the exact original logline for Manfish, but it wasn't too dissimilar to what it is today. So when I decided that I was going to make a very micro-budget feature film, the logline kind of fitted the parameters to be able to make something very, very small. You know, it's not a grand film. There's not lots of action sequences that happen. So it ended up becoming the one that I chose to make. I decided on the idea it was during lockdown, so I think in July 2020, I came up with the logline for it, and I started writing it, and I think by Christmas, I was on about draft 4 or 5 and was ready to show people. So the whole thing, I think, took about sort of 6 months. It took more time to kind of plan the film than it did to actually write it. I think actually writing it took about 2 weeks, so I got it done very, very quickly. But I put all the legwork in before I actually wrote it. That's kind of always been my process. It kind of makes the writing process easier, is that if you map the story out before you actually start writing it, getting that first draft out actually shouldn't be too difficult. And thankfully it wasn't. And I also didn't have a toddler then as well. So it was, I got it done quite quickly.
Wow!
The biggest challenges making something like Manfish is you're always up against it. You know, there wasn't really any money. There wasn't really any time. It was off the back end of a pandemic. So there was lots and lots of challenges, but you kind of just have to, I guess you just have to face them. I would probably say one of the biggest challenges was shooting on the beachfront. So we did about 3 or 4 days on the beachfront, and it was very, very difficult because up until that point, we had shot lots of stuff in a house, and we became this little mini family living in a house, all cooking food for each other, shooting scenes upstairs, downstairs, and was having a lovely time. And then all of a sudden we had to go on location, and there are people, and there are wind, and there are seagulls, and there are actors that need to go into the sea, and tides that keep coming in and out. And, you know, spending an entire day on a beach filming is very stressful and very draining. So I would say that was probably one of the biggest challenges. And actually just getting a feature film done in 12, 13 days like we did was probably the hardest thing. There's not a huge amount of time for lots of takes. You kind of just have to go with your instinct, and if you've got something, then you kind of move on and hope the editor can make something out of it. So I think, yeah, all the usual pitfalls that you would get with making a micro-budget feature film, I think we had all of them. I would say my favourite scene in the film is there's a scene quite close to the start when Terry and Tracy have taken the Manfish home, and they are sitting around the dinner table eating breakfast with the Manfish. So it's the first real time you kind of properly see it on camera as well. It was a really lovely scene to write because I always love the idea of these just two horrible people having this Manfish, this new flatmate living with them, sitting around eating a bowl of Cheerios, and the conversations that they would usually have between them, they are now having them with this Manfish who's kind of sat in between them. This humanoid sea creature. It's the first time coming out of the sea. He's never been in a house before. He's never held a spoon.
Looks like a fast learner to me. 1 minute he's eating there at your table, and the next minute he's unplugging your DVD player and fucking off down cash collectors.
What did Nigel say?
He said he'll be around in the morning to come and have a look at it. In the meantime, I need you to keep it indoors and hidden while I'm out, all right? No, don't mess this up, Tel. Otherwise you'll be sleeping in the bath with it. I've got a job for the two of you. I need some wraps folding for a drop tonight. Do you think you can handle that?
Yeah, well, I can, but what makes you think it can do origami?
Because any idiot can fold a wrap, Tel. So if you can do it, then that thing can. Clear that up. I'll be back later.
So there was lots of room for comedy in there. There was some really nice improv moments from the actors. And it was a really fun scene to shoot, particularly for the actors as well, because Matty Noble, who played Manfish, was just doing lots of physical, funny stuff that, it was one of the scenes that we had to do lots and lots of takes of because the actors kept corpsing. But, you know, it's always one of those nice moments that you remember on set. And it was quite a fun scene to write as well. So because Manfish was such a small venture, lots of the cast were friends. So I got a background in comedy and comedy improv. I started out as an actor before I moved into film. So because the money was because there wasn't really any money there, it kind of made sense to just hire lots of your friends to come in and play the roles. And thankfully, I'm very lucky in that lots of my friends are actors, are comedy actors. So most of the roles pretty much were filled with giving the roles to friends or specifically writing roles for friends. So we didn't have a huge casting process. I want to say we only cast about 3 or 4 people, if that. And one of the main people we cast was Dean. He was our lead actor. So we I don't think we could see him in person because of restrictions. So he sent us in some tapes, and we really liked him. He did a few tapes with Emma, Emma Stannard, who plays Tracy in the film. They had them bouncing off of each other. And then I think he got the role that way, I think. So yeah, not a huge amount of casting involved.
Cheers, Johnny. You bell me if you need any more, yeah? You done fucking about?
Yeah.
Why'd you have to wear those poxy overalls? You ain't even touched a fish, Terry. I doubt you're gonna bleed and catch one.
That's my mum's. She won him in a raffle. They keep you warm.
They keep you looking like a prick. Come on.
I think the biggest challenge to making a debut feature film is actually just being able to make a debut feature film. I've spent so many years making short films that, you know, making a feature film is a whole different kettle of fish. You know, there's so much more to it. Not only is it obviously longer, there's just so much more involved. There's much more days, there's much more writing. So actually just being able to do it and kind of doing it your own way, you can read all of the books, you can listen to all the podcasts, but ultimately until you go out and do it, there isn't a feature film there. So I think that was the biggest challenge, was to actually just see if we could do it, see if we can get it over the line, and actually see if anyone will buy it. And thankfully, we managed to tick all of those boxes. So distribution for Manfish came from doing the film festival circuit. So we were really, really keen to get Manfish into film festivals because we thought that it would be a really good film for a crowd, and we really wanted to screen it in front of people. And thankfully we did. We premiered at Horror on Sea in 2021 in Southend. And the guys there absolutely loved it. They really championed the film. We had a really late night slot, a kind of boozy slot, and we had lots and lots of people in the audience. And it just went down really well. And then from then on, we managed to go to a few other film festivals. We went to the Romford Horror Film Festival. We went to Sci-Fi London, and we won Best Feature at both of those. So off of the back of that, we managed to get a distributor. Word sort of started to get around, and we managed to get a distributor from the back of from the film festivals because we sold out quite a few. So it meant that, yes, because word started to get around, that's how we ended up having conversations about distribution. Yeah, so in the film, there's a song called I Lost My Eyes to the Ocean, which is written and performed by Matty Noble. So Matty Noble is the actor who plays Manfish. He's also a musician. And in the edit, we wanted this montage song, which was a kind of sort of Brit pop, Bell and Sebastian type song that Matty, the actor and singer, and Pete, the composer, they worked on it together. And Matty wrote all the lyrics for it. And it's a nice little nod to the film because during production in the film, Matty Noble, who plays Manfish, had to do quite a few takes, had to do quite a few shots where he went into the ocean. And there was one shot that we captured on camera where his eyes popped out and they drifted off into the sea. And it was quite hectic. It was a really early morning. I still remember it happening. And his eyes fell out. We caught it on camera, and then we had to cut the cameras. I had to rush into the sea in my underwear to try and find these eyes, whilst 15 people just watched me go in the freezing cold sea at 8 in the morning on Canvey Island beach. And obviously the eyes weren't there. They had just drifted away to God knows where. But thankfully, our mask maker, Steve, who made the silicone Manfish mask, he only lived down the road, so we managed to call him up, and he very kindly made us a new pair of eyes and delivered them within about 12 hours. So it only held production back by about half a day. But it was a nice little story, and then from losing those eyes in the ocean, Matty made this lovely song that kind of appears in the film. So it's got, there's loads of different meanings to it, and it's a nice kind of bittersweet song. Maybe not so much for me, just because it brings me back to being in the sea in March in my pants. Yeah, I guess with hindsight, there's always stuff that you could do differently. There's definitely scenes that I would have liked to have spent more time on. And again, that always comes back to the age-old question of micro-budget filmmaking is, what do you spend the time on? How do you spend the time? How is it best served? But I think as a piece, it was kind of, Manfish was kind of lightning in a bottle. We shot for 12, 13 days, really long days. We got through crazy amounts of pages per day. The film probably never really should have happened, but it did happen because of all the hard work that all of the actors and stuff put in and all of the crew. So I don't know what I would change. I quite enjoy it as this little, it's very rough around the edges. It's very, there's lots of sellotape sticking things together, and but I really like that, and that's quite nice as your debut feature. I don't think I would ever want to make like a really nicely polished debut feature film. I like the idea that it's rough and it's scratchy and it's, it's cheap. But I think the performances and hopefully the writing, all of those things come through to make the film kind of what it is.
Ugly looking thing, isn't it? Go on then. Wake it up.
I don't have to wake it up. I don't even know what it is.
We'll work it out, Tell. It's your mate.
Looks like he's wearing some sort of aquatic spacesuit. Maybe it's what they use to breathe on land.
What are you doing? Put it back in!
Trying!
Oh, right. No, stop it!
Ow!
I told you to wake it, not kill it.
The next film on the list is a film called Members Club, which I started writing in January 2022 when Manfish was in doing the film festival circuit. It was a good time to take a step back and think of a new project and write a new project. And I spent the entirety of 2022 writing it. And thankfully, we managed to get some funding for the film, and we begin shooting the film at the end of March 2023. And the film is called Members Club, and it is the story of Wet Dreams, a male stripper group, who take one last gig at a working man's club, only to discover that the night is a ploy to raise a 16th century witch from the dead. So it's, the best way to describe it is it's the Full Monty meets Dusk Till Dawn. Or a middle-aged Magic Mike meets Green Room. Lots of Manfish cast are coming back, so there's lots of few familiar faces in there for people who have seen Manfish. So those guys are coming back, playing lots of the lead roles. We've been very fortunate this time in that we've managed to get some nice TV and film names involved in the project as well. So we've really kind of scaled up, and we never would have been able to scale up without making Manfish. So I'm absolutely over the moon to be in the position that we're in to go and make this film with the people that we have. Manfish is out now. You can watch it on Sky Movies, and you can also watch it on Amazon in the UK and USA, and you can also watch it on Voodoo as well in the USA. And we're hoping to get on more platforms over the coming months.